Good morning, guys. I hope you're having a beautiful start to your morning. Let's just jump right into it. So, the person that I chose to interview was a man named Jeremy Creed. He's the CEO of Creed Built Inc., and they are a family owned business since the year 1960. Extremely amazing. They've been located in the North Phoenix area since 1963. So, what exactly they do? They specialize in building truck bodies. So, they're building custom designs for these truck bodies. So, like you see with the landscaping companies, how they have those special beds for holding their tools and holding all their debris. They build stuff like that. They also build custom designs. So if you want like a table or a chair or anything for like a play or anything, they build that. They're extremely talented and extremely amazing in building anything you can possibly imagine. So the first question that I asked him is, what are the most important qualities an effective leader should have? And he said, patience, respect, and the skills in the area you're teaching. He was very blunt, short to the point. He seemed very busy, but let me just explain kind of what he meant by this. First, just starting with the skills is like, if you're going to teach somebody something, you need to know how to do it. Like, why would you teach somebody something you don't know how to do? It's kind of like what he was really, and it makes sense, right? Keeping it simple, it really makes sense. Respect, just being able to have that same sort of respect on both levels, on both ends, from the leader to the follower, from the follower to the leader, understanding that you're learning from somebody and you're taking their time and their time is valuable. And the same thing with somebody learning from them, vice versa. Being able to have patience because this person is going to struggle. The leader might struggle. The leader might be busy. The follower might struggle. Just being able to work together and just build on that relationship and build on those skills to basically turn that follower into a leader. Next question. What is the importance of trust in a leadership? Mr. Creed said, if you don't trust, you will micromanage. Now, I don't know how many times you guys been in this situation when you don't trust somebody, but me personally, let's say I played soccer, so I'd be on the soccer field. I'm on a tryout, and I'm playing with a freshman, and I don't really trust his skills, so I'm over here trying to direct him every single kind of move, and that gets annoying. You don't want to micromanage. You want to be able to trust in your teammates, trust in the people that you're working with, so that they can go off on their own and learn from their mistakes and grow by themselves. You don't want to sit there over their shoulders, so you're wasting your time trying to teach them when you need to be doing your work as well. Who has the most influence on how you lead and why? Mr. Creed said his dad. His dad taught him everything he knows about the company. And like I said before, this is a family owned company. So Mr. Creed learned from his dad and taught him everything that he knew and taught him how to build the business, taught him how to uh, build those designs, how to do metal fabrication and things like that. So obviously, he really stresses the fact that you need to learn the skill, learn the trade, especially if you're specializing in building things. You have to know how to do it in order to teach somebody else. In what areas would you like to improve your leadership? Mr. Creed, this was funny, to teach someone else how to run the company so I don't have to be on site all the time. As a business owner, you sometimes catch yourself overworking and overstimulating yourself because you're carrying every single thing, every single task. And so Mr. Creed wants to be able to uh, just essentially quote unquote outsource it, give it to somebody else to handle so that he can spend more time with his family, be able to relax a little bit more, and be able to essentially not micromanage everything. Just be able to just trust in that somebody can take care of it for him while he's away. What is the biggest obstacle in leadership Mr. Creed had to overcome? And that's letting go long term employees. I just can't imagine just being in a relationship with somebody and trusting them for such a long time 5, 10, 15 years and just having to let them go because money is tight. Like sometimes you don't even have control over that. Sometimes you just have to let them go because you can't afford them anymore, and that's just heartbreaking. What is one piece of advice regarding leadership that you would give to somebody my age? And he said, obtain the skills, knowledge, and experience in what you're teaching others. Like I said before in the start of the presentation, he really stresses the fact that you need to know what you're teaching to others. Because how can somebody learn from you if you don't know the subject yourself? It's as simple as that. We wouldn't trust our professor if he hasn't had not had the experience that he had in order to teach us, right? That's how we learn from other people's experiences. And so, because Mr. Creed learned from his father, he has now built the skills. He has now have the knowledge. He does now have the experience because he built that over the years, and that's what gave him the ability to take over the company and teach others how to do the same exact craft, especially if you're in a trade, right? You're not going to trust a car manufacturer or a mechanic to fix your car if he's never fixed a car before. It's as simple as that.
All right, hi guys. So I'm going to be doing my part in our profiles and leadership presentation. My name is Ethan. So for my leader, I chose Chris Jennings. So Chris is a GCU Spiritual Life head staff member. He's head of the male life leaders, which is like about over 100 people. And he's also a GCU alumni. He's been working at GCU just since he graduated from GCU, so he's been there for a few years now. I chose Chris because of my personal experience with him. I've known Chris for about a year now, as just I've been a life leader, and I've grown to admire his leadership skills and capabilities, and also just himself as a person. I really admire him and I look up to him a lot. Uh, he's just super easy to talk to. He's super personable. He's very inspiring in his leadership. He's very confident, and he's really just someone that you want to hang out with. You want to be your leader. So for my leadership model for Chris, I chose charismatic servant leader. So kind of blend of two different kinds of leadership models. Just charismatic because he's very easy to talk to. He has a lot of friends, and his leadership style comes across as very just personable. He's great to talk to, and just when you're having conversations with him, you just find yourself really liking him. So that's why I chose charismatic, and then also servant leader, just because he's always thinking about others before himself. He's putting other people before him in his leadership and in his daily life. So that's a real inspiration to me, and so that's why I chose the leadership model for him. So the first couple questions I asked Chris were regarding important leadership characteristics. So when I asked him about what he thought some important leadership characteristics were, he brought up communication, just being able to effectively convey goals and cast mission, and then also vision at the same time. Just is really important as a leader to just use that communication to put everyone on the same page and just cast vision for everyone to understand what the goal is and then how to achieve that goal is just a really powerful aspect of communication that he talked about. And then also he talked about utilizing communication as a tool to just learn about those people you're leading just to better understand them, to have good relationships with them, using communication to interface with them, and then from that be able to lead more efficiently compared to each person, just how to lead each person just by using communication. And then when I asked him about the importance of trust, he said trust helps accomplish goals, avoid micromanagement, and allow leaders to rely on others. Just that bond of trust is super important in leadership and followership, and it just helps a leader be able to delegate to others and then have those other people trust the leader to know what they're doing, and then for the leader to trust the follower to know what they're doing to help this machine work, and then help the leader focus on what he needs to focus on, and then the follower to complete the task that they need to focus on to help achieve the overall goal, just by using trust, and that bond of trust being very important. So the biggest leadership influence, when I asked Chris about his biggest leadership influence, he mentioned Danielle, who's an assistant dean at GCU. And Chris worked under Danielle for a period of time, and he was just able to watch Danielle, what she was doing, how she was leading. And then he began to really just take some of those leadership characteristics and apply them in his own leadership style. And so that's where that leadership influence really comes in. He was able to observe her and then not copy her, but take the things that he liked from her leadership style and then kind of try and implement them in his own personal leadership style. So Daniel is what he talked about for his biggest leadership influence. For leadership improvements and how I asked Chris just how he could kind of, improve his leadership, he went back to that theme of trust again. He just seemed to think it was really important and just really key to leadership, especially that servant leadership, would be that trust aspect. And he wanted to get better at trusting others in his leadership position because he described himself as a perfectionist and a control freak at times. So learning to trust those under him was just something he was trying to get better at and is really key for relinquishing those tasks because a leader can't do everything or else they'd just be doing tasks all day and they won't be able to cast that mission or vision, do those other things that are important for a leader. So instead, Chris just wanted to get better at trusting others, let them do what they're good at so he can do what he's good at. And just that delegation and that bond of trust, he really just wanted to improve on and get better at. When I asked Chris about his biggest obstacle in leadership, he just kind of mentioned just an anecdote to me about being promoted quickly at GCU. Just very soon after his original job, he was promoted, and then he was promoted over other people who had worked at GCU longer. And in his eyes, that just kind of caused some insecurity and some tension in his mind because he kind of asked himself, why did I get promoted over these other people when they've been here longer? Maybe they know more than me about the job or about the position or the organization itself. So that really just kind of ate away at his mind as he was just thinking like, what if I'm not good enough for this job? So that was kind of his obstacle that he talked about. And then he ultimately overcame that obstacle of that promotion because he just started to be like, look, I'm confident in my own abilities and just have that confidence. Like I was promoted for a reason. Let me just do my thing and just trust that that promotion happened for a reason. I can just flourish in this position if I really have confidence in that I'm here for a reason, that I can do a good job. And then also just having these open and honest conversations with his coworkers who he was promoted over, where he just kind of thought there was tension, but once he had those conversations, he realized that there really wasn't too much tension. It was just in his own mind, and that once he had those open and honest conversations with his coworkers, he was just able to really just have that confidence in his abilities and understand that he can lead these people effectively and well, and that there's no hard feelings. And so that was kind of his obstacle, and then how he overcame that obstacle. And then finally, I asked Chris just about some advice that he has for college students, people like me who are, maybe nearing the end of their college career or just in the middle of it, and then what advice he has for us as we graduate college, finish up college, and then go out into the workforce. And his advice was twofold. The first part was just to remember that you haven't made it yet. As a college student, you can kind of think, well, I got it all figured out. Maybe I got a good job lined up. But at the end of the day, just because you went to college and you know everything, that doesn't mean that you actually do. You have a lot to learn, and once you graduate, you start at the bottom of the totem pole again in just the business world. And so, just to understand that you haven't made it, and then just in that being humble that you haven't made it, and really just hungry to work your way up from the top of the bottom is just kind of what I got from that. You haven't made it yet. Just stay that humble and hungry aspect. And then the second part of his advice was don't ever stop learning. So that just kind of branches off from that you haven't made it yet. Because you haven't made it, you still have a lot to learn. So realize that no matter how much you think you've made it or no matter how successful you are, don't ever stop learning. Have an open mind. Really just be open to doing things in new ways and just being willing to work from anyone, just being willing to learn from them. Even those people who you are leading, it can kind of seem like, wow, I'm leading them. So like, what do they have to teach me? Well, it turns out they have just as much to teach you as you have to teach them. So just being selfless enough to open your mind to those people and being willing to learn from those you're working with and those who are working under you can just lead to you becoming a more successful person and leading in a more effective way. So that was kind of my interview with Chris, and just those leadership characteristics that he had really stuck with me and just made me more confident in his leadership capabilities. So yeah, on to Aaron.
Hi, my name is Aaron Nunn, and I'm presenting my profile in leadership. I selected Don Fugate. He's the senior pastor at Foxworthy Baptist Church in San Jose, California. He's been the senior pastor for 13 years, but he's been on staff for 35. He received a doctorate from the Institute of Worship Studies in 2004, but he's been in the ministry since the early 70s. He started as a youth pastor, then became a worship pastor, and now a senior pastor. He's the former president of the executive board for the California Southern Baptist Convention, and he served 2 terms. He also was an adjunct professor at Gateway Seminary. The first question I asked him was, who are some influential people that have impacted his life? The first person he said was Jeff Lorg. The second was Rick Owsley, who he said was a great preacher and a model leader. The third was Jim Fugate, who is his father, he said that his dad had always been a tremendous leader in the church without ever being a pastor, and that was a big deal for him. The last person he mentioned, or last people he mentioned, was deacons. He said there's been quite a few deacons that have served while he's been a pastor, that have had a tremendous influence on his life. And he said that he's sad that there hasn't been as many pastors that he served with that have had the same impact as the deacons have. The second question I asked him was, what's the biggest obstacle in leadership you faced? And he said the biggest obstacle was his desire to be liked. He said that he's a people pleaser, and you can't be a people pleaser if you're in a position of leadership. He said learning to tell people no was extremely hard because he was a people pleaser. And then the last obstacle he faced was focusing on the approval of God rather than the approval of other people. So those 3 really were his biggest obstacles in leadership, and they all correlate to being a people pleaser. But he said that it was something very hard that he had to overcome. The third question I asked him is, what are some important qualities a leader should have? The first quality he gave me was being able to create a vision. But he said specifically coming up with a vision through prayer and reading the Bible is huge and very important. The second quality was communication and being able to communicate your vision, being able to communicate the what and the why of your vision to the people that are following you. The third was focus, and this relates to being able to build a personal relationship with people. Being able to have those one-on-one conversations, being able to focus and making those people feel important. He quoted Curly from the movie City Slickers saying, "City Slickers, it's just one thing." The next was courage. He said leaders need to be able to have courage to share the unpopular opinion. The opinion that maybe not everyone will like, but the opinion that is God's opinion, the idea, the vision that God has, whether or not it's the popular one. The next one was humility. A leader being able to have humility, he said, is an important quality. And he quoted Rick Warren saying, "It's not about us." He was saying that it's not about us; it's about God and His kingdom before us. And so the last thing he came up with is integrity. He said a leader needs to have integrity because if your followers can't trust you, then you're not going to have people following you. Which leads to my next question, which is, why is trust important in leadership? He said that without trust, no one will follow you. And he said integrity is so important and so easily lost. He said he can tell when some guys are lying when their lips are moving. And he says you can't get full commitment if those following you don't fully trust you. The next question I asked him was, what are some areas in his leadership that he would like to improve? The first one he said is calling people out to serve. And he says he wants to get better at calling people out to serve and calling them out when they're not serving. He says the next thing he said was casting a better vision. He wants to be able to cast that vision, but be able to also push the people that he's following to that goal, push them to the goal that they're aiming to achieve. The last one was trust God more. He says he wants to trust God more in his leadership and not be so worried about the effects of what might happen, but trusting God and letting Him take control. He wants to grow in his faith and believe in Him for even greater things in the days to come. The next question I asked him was, what are some advice that you'd give to someone my age? The first thing he said was, assess your weaknesses and your strengths. And he said, once you've assessed them, don't rely on your strengths, but develop those areas that you are weak. He said, read lots of leadership books. He said, especially books by John Maxwell, Stephen Covey, and others. He said he would also recommend Calvin Miller's books, The Empowered Leader and The Empowered Communicator. And then he said, most importantly, and the best advice I could give someone, no matter the age, is stay close to Jesus. Don Fugates, his leadership model most aligns with being a servant leader, because he tries to be selfless. He puts other people's needs before his. He tries to figure out what the needs of the people following him are, and then he tries to meet those needs. He puts God first, even when it's tough. And he does make mistakes, but he tries his best, and he knows that it's not about him, and it's about God and giving God glory and building his kingdom. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Christian. I'll now be presenting my profiles in leadership. I interviewed with Jonathan Yametsky. He is a college success leader at Be a Leader Foundation, and he worked with the nonprofit organization for 2 years. And to quickly recap what a Be a Leader Foundation is he works with local high school students to pursue their education and career goals and to be college ready. He mentors and serves them with a workshop and events to have the students what career they want to go into as they go for their education. The reason I interviewed him is because I saw his leadership skills that might be interesting to answer the questions that I have for the interview. So I asked him, what are the most important qualities a leader should have? And he said the 3 important qualities. Having humility. He meant by to be able to accept the response and take responsibility. Like when he plans the workshop on a Saturday, he went over the whole plan. And because I'm the volunteer myself, and he gathers his volunteers, and we would discuss the expectation that we need for the organization and for him to be able to support the high school students as much as we need. And also it's to build motivation, because we want to make sure we want to feel like we want to be part of the work. But it's not just because of the money, but it's also, he told me the most important thing is having the purpose to serve for the organization, because it's important to make an impact on someone else's life, especially for a high school student who's about to graduate to go to college. And then the last important quality he talked about was communication, because like anywhere else, communication is key. Building the key communication is key, is to be able to interact with someone positively. Make sure you have a good hand gesture, body language, to overall make a first impression when meeting with someone for the first time. And then I asked him the next question, what about the importance of trust? And he told me about the trust is really essential, because no matter what company you go for or whatever your clients you work for, build a trust, build that connection to get to know you, but also to work with you. Because the second part he told me, you don't want to feel defiant. In other words, don't feel left behind. And he told me, Christian, start networking, start being open-minded, and start reading new people you haven't known. And even he told me, Christian, when you go to college, start making friends, start building trust with anyone. Because overall, he told me, make sure you rely on someone whenever the good reason for the right thing. So that's why building a trust is a good way for a business to make network, but for a leader to build trust with people around them. So I asked him, who has the most leadership influence on you? And he told me that he knew someone. But just to disclosure, I forgot the name of this person that he mentioned, but I'll explain what this guy actually did. So he created a program where he helped the construction workers to manage to get their jobs. So I think this guy actually wanted the employees to get a higher education, and with that, they were able to develop new skills and trade as a construction worker. So Johnson sees that like a project manager, and that he built something for not only for his company but also for people. So that's why he admires him, because he's doing this for the people to make sure they have a brighter future for themselves. And then I asked him, what are some of the leadership that you need to improve? Any improvement? And he said he has two major improvements, because he told me he came from a background, like from a corporate standpoint, because he gets used to being told what to do, like in the office, for example. But now when he works in a nonprofit organization like the Leader Foundation, he has complete control. So he's at ease to make sure he's in charge now. He can control however he like under his leadership. So he told me the first improvement was delegation. Not everything he told me, but it will be 100%. Sometimes the plans might change, things don't work out, so that's why there's some. He told me that this team had to be a leader to find a way to bounce back, fix mistakes, and to be able to overcome it no matter the challenges. And then the second part he told me is governing communication. He told me one time that he talked with a corporate sponsor, but that he told himself to watch out for slang words, because having a slang word in a professional setting is inappropriate. So he told me, Christian, whenever you meet someone when you go for interview, make sure you don't stutter, but don't use any of those slang words, because you don't want to lose that impression to them. So that's why he told me, watch your governing communication is another improvement that you want to work on. And then I asked him, what was his biggest obstacle in servant leadership? He told me he has two biggest obstacles. And he says admitting mistakes, and which he meant by because he graduated from NAU and for business administration, and he told me once that, hey Christian, I mean, when I was your age, I want to be a straight A student. I want to make sure to keep it grade perfectly as possible. But sometimes making mistakes like to losing time management or not being on schedule. So that's why he wants me to know, to admit your mistakes. That even if you for many students, he told me, I know that many college students does procrastinate, but it's always better to admit it and to overcome your mistakes and make it less and less and less mistakes over time. And that's why he told me the second obstacle was putting plans into action. He meant by, when you make a plan, make sure you have an idea of the involvement. It's just only one person, because not a single person can do everything by himself. Sometimes he needs a team, a group of people to be able to finish a project, for example. So that's why when you have a leader, you want to have a group of people be able to overcome any obstacle. So this picture that reminds me of, if one person cannot push the rock, why not have people that supports him push the rock up the mountains? And then the final question I asked, is there any advice for college students like me and my teens? And he told me this one really interesting quote, and I thought it was interesting. He said, make as many mistakes as you can with gracefully. And I thought, what does he mean by that? And I thought, so I can screw up as many times as I want? But he got in more detail saying, when you try something for a club or trying for a job or an internship, it's okay to try something, but just don't stop just because you don't master it. It's another way to develop more skills. Like, since he told me I'm a business management, but he told me, Christian, try to learn your management, like computer science, or a few minor, like marketing or something. As long as you can find new things to try, go for it. You keep on practice until you master it. And he told me, as a servant leader, he told me, always be fearless and brave. No matter the challenges, no matter how big the obstacle is, as for servant leadership. And then after the interview was over, and I had some few thoughts of what could Jonathan be for a type of sort of leadership model, and I found out. Well, I believe that he's a transformational leadership because he fit in those certain criteria, like he planned and organized everything to become an effective sticker in leadership. Because to me, when I see him with his own eyes, he's making a difference and making the Leader Foundation going in the right direction. Because of his leadership guidance, the organization grew, and the number of high school students going to college is increasing. Because of him, everything has changed, and the organization grows positively. And also, thanks to him, his contribution also make this organization a better place. And with his leadership and leadership and experience, that's why, to me, not only he, in my view, as a servant leader, but he's also my friend. Thank you.
Alexis Connor, and this is my profiles of leadership presentation. The person that I chose to focus in on was Erica Martinez. She is the CCS director at MaxCare Inc. The way she works as a leader is that she runs a daycare program for individuals with mental and physical disabilities, meaning that she tries to make their days as meaningful, as thoughtful as she can each and every day by providing them with activities and things to do throughout their day, making sure that they stick to their schedules and they're working and hard, being active in the community. Erica has worked there for 14 years. It took her a year to get into her leadership position. She has now worked as a leader for 13 years in that position at MaxCare Inc. And the first question that I decided to ask her is, what is the most important qualities that a leader should have? And she told me that the most important she told me 3 of the qualities that she found to be most important. Being able to do honest work, so honesty was her first one. And then, of course, communication, talking and communicating in a positive manner, especially working with people with these disabilities. They're easy to get angry or upset, so it's good to be able to talk to them in a positive manner and ask all the questions that they have, being able to connect with them. And then, of course, delegating, be able to do what needs to be done, because this can be somewhat of a fun working environment. The fact that they go on all these outings, like they would go to the movies, they would go to the mall, to the park. So being able to do what needs to be done for, people can get lost track of time while having fun at this job. So they have to remember that they have a paperwork and stuff too as well. So being able to focus in on the diligence that you need to be able to get work done is an important quality as well. And then I asked, what are the qualities would you like to improve on in your leadership? And she told me that her patience and coaching. She said that being able to help someone learn something new without getting fed up. And what she talked about that was that she really has to focus in on being patient when teaching somebody a new set of skills and understanding that these skills can be hard to learn. So it's going to take patience and time for them to be able to understand. The next question I asked her is, why is trust important in leadership? And she said it's important for people to trust you because you want to lead by example. So if there's no trust, the team will not effectively work together. And she wants her team to be able to work together, for them to be able to build each other up and not tear each other down, for them to be able to lean on each other and depend on each other. That way they can get the work done effectively and efficiently. Because in this line of work, you want to make sure that not only your leader is good, but your team as well. Being able to have that trust and bond with each other will help the team in the long run. Who has the most influence on how you lead and why was the next question I asked. And she answered that the owner of the company has had the biggest influence on her because she got things done in an orderly fashion and she's always working actively in her company. Meaning that she shows up to work, she shows up to get things done. Even though she has people that she hired to be able to do these jobs, she shows up and checks up and makes sure that everything is running smoothly. And she plays an active part in the community, going in to some of these outings and to showing up to meetings and making sure that clients are being taken care of and not neglected. And then I asked her, what is the biggest obstacle in leadership that you would have to overcome? She said that working with the Guardians is very hard because they don't always like her. The Guardians are never happy with you or the job that you do, and it's hard to keep them satisfied. And you have to consistently hear this negative feedback. And she said that she had to overcome that, and the way that she overcame that is keeping a positive attitude toward them, allowing her to show them show them that she's doing the best that she can, that they're not being neglected, and she wants to help them in every way that she can. She said that was one of the hardest obstacles she ever had to overcome, but she had to get used to it and realize that things may not always be satisfactory to them, but allowing her to know that she can do her best, and the next time she'll do better. That way she can get them into this happy, positive place. What is one piece of advice regarding leadership that you would like to give someone my age? Was the next question that I asked Erica. And then to work with leadership positions are not just, and she said to work hard, leadership positions are not just off the knowledge you have, but off the hard work, determination, and skills as well. And you should always lead by example. Don't let other people think that you're above the work that they do. And she really honed into this, and I really took an understanding and a meaning, because this was a powerful piece of advice, right? Because the knowledge that I gain here at school isn't going to help me become an active leader. That I need to be able to put these skills and determination that I have into use as well as leading by example. That is always a positive thing to do, to be able to show people that you're not above the work that they're doing, that the work that they're doing is just as important, and that you've done it at one time too, and being able to connect with them and feel that is important. And the leadership model that I felt that Erica Martinez follows is servant leadership. I feel that Erica lines up with some of the servant leaders as a servant leader, based on the values that she had: the honesty, communication, diligence, and that she wants to better her working environment, that she wants to help build her team up instead of tearing them down, and that's the way that she wishes to serve them in that way. But also she recognizes areas that she needs to improve in: the patience and the coaching. I know that can be hard to always keep your calm and your patience with other people, but she's working on it, and she wants to make that environment as positive as she can, being able to talk to them positively. And that is all that I have for my servant leadership profiles, and I thank you.